Welcome to the Woman Up podcast. My name is Natasha Digi. I'm your host. Today we are having our guest is called Carol Glynn. She's a financial wellness coach and mentor, personal finance, and she is involved in financial empowerment. Carol, welcome to the Woman Up podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. Delighted to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting. I know you have a busy schedule.
Yes. Yeah, took us a little bit, but we got here.
Yes, definitely. But I'm super happy, super excited for you to be on here because I've been looking for a financial boss, lady boss. And you know what? It's not easy to find that nowadays. It's mainly men. But for that matter, I was very excited to found you.
Yeah, we're definitely outnumbered by men when it comes to all aspects of finance, really, and talking about money. And even in my own corporate profession, very male dominated. So yeah, but that's why I do what I do as well, because I noticed that when back in the day when I wanted to speak to someone about money, it was all men. And what I realized when I started doing this role, and the reason why I focused on women so much, is we feel very different about money. We come at money from a very different angle very often than men do. For us, it means security usually. For men, it tends to be more attached to their self-worth. So our approaches can be very different, which is why women need a woman to speak to sometimes.
I love this. So for people who do not know you, can you please officially introduce yourself and how you came up to being a coach in finances, and why is financial empowerment is so special to you?
Yeah, so of course I'd love to. I'm Carol Glynn, as you kindly introduced me. My company is called Conscious Finance Coaching, and I am an accountant by trade. I worked in corporate for 2 decades. I had a great career as a regional chief financial officer, head of finance, large international businesses, big 4 consulting firms. But almost 4 years ago, for like I just mentioned, when I wanted to do something different. I wasn't satisfied in my career. That's a whole other conversation. But I just wasn't satisfied with what I had, despite on paper, it really was amazing. I was very lucky. But I wanted to do something that I was helping people, that I enjoyed, that I had flexibility, but using my skill set. And that's where Conscious Finance Coaching came about. And what I do is I kind of have 2 arms, where I do personal finance coaching and mentoring largely for women. And I do employee wellness workshops there. I also do business finance coaching with my old CFO hat, helping women largely it's almost all women in that space from my client base, helping women understand the finances of their business. You know, how to read a P&L, how to create a balance sheet, how to do a cash flow plan, all of these things, how to make financial decisions. From a personal finance, it's everything from the financial literacy, so how to budget, how to get out of debt, how to start investing, how to save, where to save, when to save, and as well as the mindset piece. Because for me, they are equally important. That we can have all the textbook knowledge, but if we don't have a positive mindset when it comes to money, if we don't feel empowered when it comes to money, and very often that's very subconscious, then all the tools in the world are not going to get us to where we want to be. When we have the tools and the confidence to implement those things, plus the knowledge and the mindset, the healthy mindset, the abundance mindset, the millionaire mindset, and we're letting go of limiting beliefs that we have around money, then that's where the magic happens. And that's what I do. That's my goal, to help women step into that space, to feel confident to talk about money, to challenge things when it comes to money, to manage their own money. Because for me, money is energy. You know, it's a power that we need to live our lives. And very often, you know, unfortunately, it happens a lot. It's taken away, but very often we give it. Well, let's just let him deal with it. Just let them deal with it. They know more than me, and we're giving our power away. So my business is here to help us take it back.
I love this. And you touch base on mindset. And this is one thing that I've come to realize, that it's, for example, whoever wants who wants to achieve the millionaire status or go beyond, I understand now today that it's a mindset game. What are the misconceptions that you've observed about money when it comes to women or female executive, whoever?
Yeah, that we're not good with money, that we don't know how to manage money, that I read some research. Oh, and I can't remember, I can get it for you, the reference for it, that it did an analysis, for example, on the media and how it talks to women and how it talks to men about money.
Right.
And there's that, you know, women need to stop shopping, drink less coffee, rein in the shopping sprees, and just save a little. A lot more, but generally that was the consensus. Whereas men were told, invest, be powerful, ask for more money, it's strength, you know, it's a powerful thing, and it's part of your manhood. The more money you have, the more, you know, you're fulfilling your role as a man. And that feeds that preconception that we as women just overshop. All we want is clothes. We drink too much coffee and spend too much on shoes, and we just are clueless when it comes to money. And when you're fed that narrative, maybe from home, sometimes it's cultural, but it's the media worldwide. You know, we're exposed to this everywhere. I work with clients from all over the world, all backgrounds, all different cultures and religions. It's pretty consistent. And the issue is, even if your parents, you know, don't treat you differently to your male siblings, for example, they're still exposed to it once we leave the home. We really are exposed to it a lot. And that is a huge misconception that we have. The amount of women who come to me and say, when it comes to money, I just feel stupid. They'll literally say, I just feel stupid. Or it's a very emotional place, you know, where they just, back to the mindset piece, they just don't believe they are someone who invests. They don't believe they're someone who can be good with money, who can make good decisions. And that's the piece, to your point, that's what holds us back. You know, we can earn a lot of money, but if we don't know how to use it and we don't feel worthy of it and we don't feel confident and empowered to make our own decisions, and for me, that's about in line with your values. So what's important to you, not what other people are telling you should do with your money, what's important to you, then that's when we actually grow it. So we can attract it, and then it's retaining it and growing it and making those decisions. That means money is adding to our lives, that it's not stressful, it's not taking away from our lives, and it's not a negative thing, which unfortunately for a lot of people, you know, it can have very negative connotations. So yeah, it's mindset. Mindset is everything, because even to open up to do more with money, you have to open up your mindset that you can and that it's okay. The more money we have, the more we can do for others. And that's the thing about women. Research shows as well that we tend to give back more. So when women have more money, we give back more. Yeah.
So how you touch base on values, and that's one thing that I really for sure I can not rely, but relate. I can relate. So how can you please tell us, how can we reframe our current values to align with that person that we're trying to be or become or unveil? Because if there's one thing that I've been told, is that money doesn't change people, it reveals the person that you are already. So how can we realign our values and to feel worthy of that kind of amount of money or status?
Yeah.
Because
I think the first thing is to really think about this. It might be changing your perspective when it comes to money, you know, and deliberately aligning with your values. One question I ask someone, like a quick test to see, are you spending your money in line with your values? I'll say, you know, if I was to look at your credit, let's say you do all of your spending on a credit card, and I look at that credit card list and I don't know anything about you, I've no name, I've no information other than a list of transactions. How would you feel about me doing that? Would I be able to make a judgment call on what's important to you in life, what you're trying to achieve in life, what makes you happy? The vast majority of people will like, oh no, I'd be so embarrassed. They're like, no. And I've had some very funny reactions when I say to people, you know, I'm going to be looking at where you're spending your money. It's a very vulnerable space. But there again, it's like, well, then if that is not a true reflection of who you are, what you're trying to achieve in life, then why not? That's where to start. Why not? Because then that tells me likelihood is you're not using your money intentionally in line with your values, to purposely do what's important to you. Is that to travel with your family once a year? Is that to have a nice house for your family? Is that connection might be important? I live in Dubai, for example. Connection here is really important because we don't have our families, and very often that's eating out. So for someone to dedicate some of their money to eating out so that they have that, they meet their friends once a week for a dinner, then that's a core value for them, that, it's really linking it up. So that's really important. And it's really freeing when people do that, because then it's like you've given yourself permission to be intentional with your money, because our value systems are generally positive things, right? I don't know anyone, at least, who would admit something negative, that, I like fighting with people, or, I like to cause trouble. People's values are usually positive. And that is a really great place to start. And then build on the plan. So, and analyze, look back and go, where am I not spending on areas that are actually really important to me? Because that's where money brings, to your point, that's where money brings happiness. It's not the money. It's just the money is giving you the choice to do more of what's important to you. And yes, and that can amplify. So if you're someone who maybe has some negative habits, money will allow you to do more of that. It doesn't change you. It just means you have the ability, you have the choice and the freedom to do more of whatever that is. Thankfully, the vast majority of people will use it to do more of when they're intentional with it, when they feel empowered and confident, and they're making the choices with this mind of, how can I best utilize my money to do good for me, for my family, for my life. It works out much better than just spending, because sometimes, especially if you are a high earner and you do have a decent salary, I hear a lot of people will say to me, I'm happy with what I earn, but it just seems to fall through my fingers, and I don't know why. But it's been that intentional. Every time we buy something or go somewhere or spend money, for me, I think, is this adding to my life? Am I doing this just because, or am I doing this because I actually want to, and it's going to make me happy, or it's going to get me to something that I want to do? Then it feels good as well. It takes away a lot of shame and guilt.
But that work, I believe that it's only once we reframe our values, I guess, that it
First
feels
step,
good.
Think about our own. Yeah. Yes. The first step is to understand your value system, because that could be a big thing too. I often talk about this. The first time someone directly asked me, so what are your core values? And I was, I want to say, maybe 35. I wasn't particularly young to be having that conversation. And I was like, to be a good person, to be kind, or to be good and kind, isn't that everyone's values? I was completely sidetracked. Like I didn't know what to say, and they said to me, no, we need to go deeper. And at that point is when I realized the significance of not just spending in line with our values, but living in line with our values and deciding what's important to us. And it was an interesting exercise, but it's something that I go back to all of the time, because our values change as well as our lives change. So it's not a permanent thing. But yeah, you're right. It's very important we do the value piece so that we understand that. It can also be a good exercise if you look at your money through the lens of your values. It can tell you what your value systems are. So when I work with clients and we do this together, and I can see by their reaction to, when we look at like 6 months of spending, and they're seeing the patterns, and they see where the money goes, that I can tell by their body language, I can tell by how they're reacting, where they're happy with it, where they're not. That just bubbles up what's important to them, what's not important to them, where they feel shame, where they feel guilty. And that can really as well add information to what your value system will be. And this is why money is so powerful. It can tell us so much, but we don't often look at it like this way.
In your opinion, what are the most important financial principles everyone should understand?
I think, first of all, budgeting, but I know that's not going to be a popular answer. I actually I use the word cash flow planning, because budgeting sounds very negative. Like it feels like a diet, like you've done something wrong. Put on a money diet. I'm putting you on a budget. For me, cash flow planning or positive budgeting, it's understanding what you're doing with your money being intentional with it. Saving. I love the 50-20-30 approach to saving as a benchmark. So up to 50% of your income going on your needs, up to 30% on your wants, and at least 20% on savings. So not a hard and fast rule, but a good guideline. Saving, and then the next step is putting your savings to work. Put your money to work through investments, even if it's just interest-bearing accounts that you can get so that it's earning something. If you're starting from the beginning, if you feel I don't know what to do, your value system, like we just talked about, review your financials and then create a plan for the next 12 months. Set a target for saving and give that savings a purpose. That's really important. Just having money in the bank doesn't bring us reassurance. It doesn't, unless you say it's my emergency fund. It's my deposit for my home, my down payment for my home. It's for my children's education. It has to have a specific purpose for it to actually add to our life. Otherwise, it's just like an intangible amount of money in the bank that we can't relate to, and it'll never feel like enough. So give it a target and give it a purpose, and then start looking at investing or some way to grow your money so that it's not just sitting there losing value. That's where I start. And then your mindset.
And your mindset, yes, for sure. You just mentioned about investing. I was gonna ask you about saving and investing strategies, but I think you just nailed all that part already.
Okay.
This question comes from one of our listeners. Her name is Pascal Florestin. I want to give her a shout out for sending her question prior. She asked, aside of real estate, what are some other what kind of investment can we make at this time, knowing what's coming and in the time that we are currently living?
Yes, it's a confusing time, isn't it? It's a very uncertain time. And I will say I'm not a financial advisor, so yeah. I'm not licensed to give financial advice. Definitely. I will talk about how I personally what I do. I love index funds and exchange traded funds for that reason, because they are low cost, easy to buy, easy to sell. There's no restrictions. Depending on which one you're choosing, I personally have one that is a worldwide diversified one. If you're in the US, for example, an S&P 500 is often a great choice for people, that it's mirroring the market and you're not worrying about the ups and downs, but it needs to be long term. So that's the goal, I think, with investing. Is I get a lot of questions around how can I have a passive income really quickly? The best way to really put your money to work is be patient. Leave it there. Let compounding do its magic. Give it 5, at least, ideally 10, 15, 20 years. Let it go through a few markets up and down. Put in as much as you can when you can. Keep it simple. That's always my advice. And start there. If you're new to it, it's an easy to understand approach. Exchange traded funds, index funds. It's low cost. And then you can expand from there as you become more comfortable with investing. Yeah, that's always my starting point.
Great. I was going to ask you, how can people effectively manage and reduce debt? We know that in business, debt could be a good one, but if we come from a personal perspective, I mean, where are the differences, and what would be the approach around that?
So, yeah, credit card debt is the number one source of consumer debt worldwide. It's a major problem. It's extremely expensive. No matter what country you're in, it's extremely expensive. And I think there's a lack of understanding of how credit cards work. They're really advertised very well. But I think that managing that is really important, because there's nothing that's going to get you in trouble, really nothing that's going to get you in trouble faster than a lot of credit card debt, just because it's so expensive. On the flip side, though, I am a big fan of credit cards. I talk about how I use my credit card as an asset, because I have one that's specific that I can utilize the points for a reason that's really important to me. So that I save money every year. I save a lot of money every year by using my credit card, but only because I pay it off in full every month. Right. I never pay interest on it. I never let it roll over. I'll only spend enough that I have. And that's really, really crucial. And then it's a great debt. in the sense that it's a debt tool. If you have credit card debt and you're feeling like you're drowning and it's all consuming, very often we can put our heads in the sand and ignore it. It's a really difficult one, you know, where people, well, I just don't know what to do. I feel like I'm putting money off it and it just never goes away. I don't know what to do. In that case, what we do is, again, it's going back to reviewing your financials and getting real clarity. What is your cost of living? What is driving this debt? Is there anywhere we can, even for a short term, reduce expenses, or even better, increase income? Is there, because very often we focus a lot on expenses. And I believe, you know, what we focus on grows. So we need to be careful with the balance of analyzing your expenses, but that mindset of how can I optimize how I'm spending my money, and then put a lot of energy as well and focus around your income. Is there any way you can increase income? Can you sell things? Can you get a second job? Can you go for a promotion? Can you change companies? You know, I don't know. Everyone's situation is very specific to them.
Right.
But looking at it like that and just taking action. We procrastinate a lot when it comes to debt because it can be very overwhelming, and it's easier to just go, oof. But I will say, you know, when I work with clients and they'll tell me I was so stressed, you know, money is the #1 cause of stress worldwide for men and women. And they tell me I was so stressed anyway. I was terrified to look and really understand how bad my debt situation is. But now that I have a plan, and it might take me a year, 2 years, 3 years, but I have a plan. I know when I'm going to be debt free. I know what I need to do to get there. And actually, I feel less stressed because of that, even though I'm not there yet. It's that intention, taking charge, really look at it. But it can be a very difficult space for people, very, very stressful, especially when it's high interest debt, like credit cards.
I can so relate with that because at one point I did feel overwhelmed and I was like, where is this going? But I made some decision, and I also took decision sacrifices as well. So I had to put aside certain things, which I was really proud. And those moves I've made it like by myself until I found an accountant that was like amazing. And I was like, this is where I'm at. I want to go there.
Yeah.
And I had like the most breakthrough conversation ever. You don't know what you don't know. And I always encourage, especially women, because we're so in our head, but I always push them to speak to professionals to get those advices properly. What are your thoughts on that? What can you say about the importance to have like financial advisors, people like such as yourself that mentor people?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's really important to get the right assistance. And the first thing is to talk to someone, because like you said, very often we don't. We sit with it, we hide it, and shame with debt is really crippling. You know, the amount of women who will tell me, you know, their confidentiality is really important to them, because they're like, I would hate for anybody to know I'm in this situation. I'm so embarrassed. Which, you know, it's easy for me to say you don't need to be embarrassed, but they feel what they feel. And again, that's what's imposed on us sometimes. Getting the right advice. And that's why I always, you know, I mean, I am a coach, right? So I don't want to be, you know, buy my services, but finding someone professional who understands you and asks you questions. Because I hear a lot, I asked my brother, I asked my sister, my mother said I should do this, my father says I should do this, my friend does this, but none of it works for me. And now I'm just totally confused because they're conflicting. Or the media says they read this article. And, you know, my advice is they're all just ideas. There's many, many different ways we can approach these things. They're all ideas. Again, it's bringing back to like you and your value system. What I do is I say, let's say for a debt, for example, here's your debt situation. This is where you want to go. There's many different ways to do this. So if you reduce, for example, like you mentioned, if you want to reduce a lot and really spend a lot less and throw loads of extra cash at it, this is going to be the result. If you think that that's too restrictive and that you won't be able to stick to it, and then, you know, that's not going to work for you, here's plan B, here's plan C, here's plan D, and therefore the person can actually choose what they want to do. And then the person's empowered. And they're making a decision based on what they've decided is right for them, not something that's imposed on them. And that's where my people say, how do I choose a financial advisor? How do I choose a coach? Listen to the questions they're asking you. Are they asking you questions? Are they interested in you? Or are they just going to tell you what to do? Like an accountant. I'm just going to go, here we go. Because, I don't want to play the men women thing, but this is the feedback I get is a lot of women will come and say, I went to my accountant friend, and I'm an accountant by trade, and he just gave me a budget and told me to stick to it. And she said, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. That works for some people, but as women, we tend to want more emotion, to understand it, to buy into it more. So finding an advisor or someone who will actually listen to you and come up with a plan that works for you rather than just tell you what to do, because they don't tend to work.
There's a few of them. There's not a lot of them around. I could say by experience, there's not a lot. Are there any financial pitfalls or mistakes you commonly see people make, or how can they avoid, and how can whoever's listening, can avoid them?
So the biggest pitfall, like we mentioned earlier, is credit cards and over reliance on credit cards and not understanding how much that's costing you. That would be number one. If you feel you don't understand how credit cards work, invest the time to understand them. And very quickly people go, oh no, okay, I need to resolve this because it's actually costing me a lot of money every month in interest and your credit score and other things as well. If that's not, where you are, because sometimes people go the opposite way and they will not spend and they will not touch credit cards, and that's bad. So we want a middle ground where we're using them as an asset or as a backup, but not dependent on them or not paying them off every month. The other thing is that it might sound a bit cliche, but it really is getting that clarity and being intentional with your money, aligning it with your values. We're so busy, and I understand we're so busy in life, things crop up. When we're just spending, and then thinking we procrastinate, I'll look at it later. Oh, I'm still not saving this month. I don't know why. Oh, I'll look at it later. That feels too complicated right now. Invest the time to understand. That was a major, for me, that's financial self-care. It is a major gift to yourself to do that. Invest the time, because it's amazing what easy things we see, low-hanging fruit that we can just stop spending, cut out, not realize is costing us so much, and being intentional then with how we spend our money. And then the other one is not having an emergency fund or having a cushion there. That is the number one thing. My one and only, I talk about, there's so many shoulds when it comes to finances that are out there, all of these ideas. My one and only should, I have one, have an emergency fund. Have an emergency fund. It will not only protect you from a lot of debt situations, it actually helps our nervous system, our sense of financial security. When we know, what, no matter what the situation is, my car broke down, I need to pay for it. It's okay. The money's there. I hate my job. I think I'll quit. I actually have that option because I have some money there. Maybe I can. Probably won't just quit like that, but it does give us that sense of control that is really important when it comes to money and how we feel about it, back to our mindset as well. If we can build that sense of financial security, it's life-changing for a lot of people. So that would be my one and only should.
What system can we create or put in place right now, no matter no matter where we at, to create that emergency fund?
So I think setting aside an amount every month, even if it's small. So if you are able to get the clarity and you can say, right, I know I can save whatever amount of dollars per month consistently, then start with that. Start small, because what we do sometimes is we get ambitious. And we think, oh, of course I can do this. And you put away, let's just say, you put away $1,000 and you think I should be able to do that. And then halfway through the month, you have to take it out again. It's really demotivating. And it's really like, what's the point? I don't understand why. You'd be better off putting $50 aside every month. And then at the end of the month, put in extra if you want to, if you have any left over. But keep that consistent. And again, having it there specific for that purpose, giving it that, this is for me, because I personally actually call it a cash cushion rather than an emergency fund, because an emergency fund's quite expensive, right? And no one wants to save for an emergency. That's like, why I want to attract that into my life. it's a cash cushion, so that no matter what happens, I can bounce back up. And it can be positive things as well. It could be, something comes up that I want to purchase, or I want to go to, or I want to, whatever it might be, that I actually do have the option to do it if I want to. And it's giving yourself that freedom. So giving it that purpose will make it easier to save for something that is meaningful to you.
Right.
And then as soon as you get paid every month, put it aside. Even if it feels like a tiny amount, if it's $5, put it aside and leave it there. It doesn't actually matter how much it is, because it's amazing how that will snowball. And the more you see that grow, you'll find ways to put more towards it. It's just about getting started. It's like going to the gym. I can't run a marathon the first time I go.
For sure.
I go for a walk on the treadmill first, and I build myself up. It's the same.
That's amazing. Carol, you've been so amazing. I love the insights that you share with us. As we are wrapping up, I want to ask you something, and it's a question every guest must answer. What is your legacy? What do you want people to remember from you?
Oh, that's a good question. What first comes to mind is that I helped them and I made them feel safe. I think that's, when it comes to money, that's my goal. They're in a safe space and I've helped them to live their life in line with their values and use their money to do it.
I love that. Where can we, if people wants to reach out to you, where can we find you?
I'm most active on Instagram, under Conscious Finance Coaching. On LinkedIn, you'll find me, Carol Glynn, my name. And I have the website, Conscious Finance Coaching. And yeah, they're the main places. You can contact me at carol@consciousfinancecoaching.com if you want to reach out directly. I do offer a free discovery call for anyone who wants to chat a bit more about money. But the links are all there on my social media.
I will be sharing those links with the podcast for sure. Thank you so much for being here, Carol. Again, I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. That's a wrap for today. Until then, woman up.
You are listening to the Woman Up podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, please hit the follow button, share it on social media so we can send you a shout out. To get information on public speaking coaching with Natasha DG, reach out by email at contact@natashadg.com or by phone 514-558-5777. Thanks again, and I'll see you on next one. Until then, woman up.